Okay, so that was a very brief overview of the file submission, how you would submit the files in CalPAS. But this next section, which is the data details section, this is where we will provide an examination of the field specifications and code values for the 7 WBLR data fields that we just looked at in the previous slide, right? Which would be right here. So keep in mind these 7 data elements. So in the next section, what we will do is examine each of these, but not only that, within each one, there may be code values that we will look at in detail as well as to how they're defined, and also some conditional edits that you may see applied to them.
So slide, can I just point out to the CTE folks, if you go back a couple slides.
Okay.
So for those of you in the CTE realm, when he's talking about code sets, basically that means that when you click one of those little drop-down menus, that those are the values that appear in that drop-down menu. And so many of these work-based learning components, if you see those little arrows on the right, it means that there's a code set or a drop-down menu associated with that. So.
Right. And there are 3 specific ones here, or yeah, that you will see code values, and we'll look at those code values in detail. Good point. Thank you, Brandy. All right, so the first one is the work-based learning type code data element 2109. And this is a coded value representing the work-based learning that the student completed during the academic year in any grades 9 through 12. So the codes are defined in the CalPAS code sets document, and we will talk about a few different documents throughout this training, and I will point you to the actual location where you can download these documents a little bit later on. So you have those, because there's one document, which is the CalPAS file specifications document, that has the definition of all of these different data elements that we covered today. And then there's the code sets document that has the definition of all the different code values for each of these data elements, right? So it's very, very important that you download these documents. And again, I'll share the link with you a little bit later on where you can download it. All right. So the LEA should report the work-based learning in the year it was completed. That is a very important point I want to make. Students may have more than one work-based learning activity that can be reported for a student for the academic year. You would want to report summer work-based learning for grades 9 through 11 as well. However, you do not want to include summer internships that occur after the student has graduated, right? So please keep in mind that the work-based learning codes will dictate that other fields be populated, and we will cover some of these conditional edits or cross-field validations a little bit later on in the midst of this section as we go through the different fields. So now let's take a closer look at each of these work-based learning type codes, right? So we kind of define what the work-based learning code field is, but these are the different code values that you can populate this field with, right? And there are 12 of them in here, and we will look at each one now and see how they're defined in the code sets document. Okay, so the first one is internship, code 10. So internships are county, district, or school-sponsored experiences that expose students to work in partnerships with local businesses, industries, or other organizations in the community. If a student participates in an internship that spans more than one academic year, LEA should report what the student completed. For example, number of hours in each academic year, right? So internships can be paid or unpaid. It can be a community classroom, and there are some California education code sections that are mentioned in the notes in this slide that you should look at for the specifics. They can also be co-op career technical education or cooperative vocational education, and there are specific California education code sections as well for that. And they can occur over the summer or during the school year. So it can occur at any business type, profit or nonprofit, and internships may, but are not required to be connected to a CTE pathway course or any course, okay? A couple of things internships are not is job shadowing. So there must be supervision and specific practice and working alongside an industry expert. It cannot be apprenticeships and jobs that students secure on their own, example, a summer job that may have, okay? So the CalPAS code sets document goes into much more detail defining the internship as well as community classrooms and community-based vocational instructions. And we have put some notes in the slide here as well that you can read on your own offline, but there's a lot of information and we have the resources available for you to look into each of these a little bit further if you need to.
Slide, can we take some questions on the
Sure.
internships, because we do have some questions.
Okay.
And Michelle and Jenny, if you could chime in here. So Lisa Jackson says, can a career readiness mentorship count as an internship since we are virtually especially? And if you're talking, we can't hear you because you're on mute.
I might defer. This is Michelle. I might defer to Jenny on that. I mean, mentorship is one thing, but mentorship is not the same as an actual internship where students are actually getting that experience in the workplace. So I don't know, Jenny, if you have anything to add to that, but mentorship in our world is a lot different than an actual internship.
Correct. We are not including mentorships as a measure in the CCI.
Let's see. So to confirm, work-based learning must be tied to a course, right? So a summer job that is aligned to a school year instruction would qualify.
That is correct.
So Jenny, it appears that the work experience courses that were in the previous CalPADS codes definition in 1819 are no longer included in the 2021 definitions. How can we reflect work experience classes as work-based learning for CTE if those are no longer available? So the work experience courses are available in the CalPADS code sets. They're in the 9,000 range. That's maybe why you can't find them. Previously, those work experience courses were included in the CTE range, but we removed them from those CTE codes because you don't have to have a CTE credential to teach work experience courses. So Julie, they are still available.
Yeah, and I believe those codes, Brandy, are 9500, 9501, and 9502.
There we go. Look, she's got it memorized. Good for you, Michelle.
But
All right.
to be clear, Brandy, those codes are not being used as measures in the CCI.
Correct. But if they have components of work-based learning, they should report them as work-based learning codes. Is that correct? So for instance, as part of a work experience, a WE course, work experience education course, if there's an internship component or a student-led enterprise component, you would report those.
Correct.
All right, so Rebecca says, when including summer work-based learning, do we include those prior to July 1st, 2021 in the current school year file and those on or after July 1st, 2021 in the 21-22 school year? So are we operating on the academic year calendar? And I would say probably yes. Because remember, our end of year submissions are based on the July 1st through June 30th academic year. So if you have courses that are taking or these work-based learning programs that are happening during the summertime after July 1st, then it would be reported in the subsequent academic year.
Work-based learning type, which is the student-led enterprise. A student-led enterprise involves the development and operation of a revenue-generating business outside the classroom, but is associated with a course at the school and evaluated by the course instructor. So students produce goods or services for sale to or used by people other than themselves. Examples include student-run cafes or video production studios that serve clients and generate revenue. Benefits include the development of entrepreneurial, technical, and academic skills in a school-based environment. So a student-led enterprise must be operated by the student. The student is not just an employee of the enterprise. And it must be ongoing and not a day event, must be tied to a course in which students develop a business and marketing plan. This may be any course, including CTE courses, and must be co-curricular, time spent in and out of the classroom, and must bring in revenue, but does not need to make a profit and can include a nonprofit venture. So a student-led enterprise is not a student working at a campus bookstore or volunteering at the school bake sale, right? So that is the definition of student-led enterprise, Code 15. The next one is the virtual simulated work-based learning, Code 20. So a virtual simulated work-based learning is a program where students can gain business experience through a virtual environment that is aligned to the classroom curriculum. Now, the virtual simulative work-based learning must be tied to a course in which students develop their own business plans and websites. It may also be tied to any course, including a course that is part of a CTE pathway. And examples of that would be business, marketing, entrepreneurship, STEAM, hospitality, tourism, information technology, etc. Now, a virtual simulation work-based learning is not an online course or program. This next slide, we have two work-based learning types, registered pre-apprenticeship, as well as non-registered, and Brandy touched on these a little bit earlier. And in the notes, we have some details as well. But basically, youth apprenticeship programs are formal multi-year programs that combine school and work-based learning at a competitive wage in a specific occupational area or cluster, and are designed to lead directly into either a post-secondary program, entry-level job, or registered apprenticeship program. Now, most apprenticeship programs are developed in collaboration with the State Apprenticeship Standards Board, right? So the definition of registered pre-apprenticeship program is that a student, once successfully completes during the academic year a registered pre-apprenticeship program that is recognized by business and or industry and registered at the state or national level. And two, is also awarded a certificate of completion upon successful completion of the pre-apprenticeship program. Now, non-registered pre-apprenticeship program is defined as the student successfully completing during the academic year a non-registered pre-apprenticeship program that is recognized by the business and or industry, but is not registered. So this one is not registered at the local, state, or national level, right? So a pre-apprenticeship program is designed to provide students with entry-level skills necessary to be eligible to enter a registered apprenticeship program. Example of those would be an apprenticeship program that is registered at the state or national level. Typically, schools that offer pre-apprenticeship programs, they have partnership with a local business. So again, the code says document would have a little bit more detail about these types of work-based learning types if you're interested to review offline. These three work-based learning types, Job Corps, Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, as well as Youth Build, are programs that are administered by the U.S. Department of Labor, right? So Job Corps, which is code 35, this is where the student successfully completes during the academic year a Job Corps program administered by the U.S. Department of Education, which offers general education development test or GED support and vocational training to youth ages 16 to 24 years old. Job Corps is described as a free education and training program that helps young people learn a career, earn a high school diploma or GED, and find and keep a good job. So for eligible young people at least 16 years of age that qualify as low income, Job Corps provides the all-around skills needed to succeed in career and in life. For Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, or WIOA, which is code 40, is defined as students successfully completing during the academic year Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act youth program administered by the U.S. Department of Labor, which works to overcome barriers between in-school or out-of-school youth and employment by placing them in a minimum wage job. Okay, so there's some more detail about this code in the code sets document. I strongly recommend that you review that offline as well. And then as far as youth build, the student successfully completes during the academic year a youth build program that is administered by the U.S. Department of Labor, which basically trains youth ages 16 to 24 years old who have dropped out of high school in construction by building homes for low-income members of their communities. Now, youth build programs provide students with vocational training, counseling, leadership development, and an education leading to a diploma. Now, youth build programs vary according to local community needs, fundings, and partnerships. And the next work-based learning type is California Conservation Corps Code 50. The student, in this case, would successfully complete during the academic year a California Conservation Corps program, or CCC, administered by the California Resources Agency, which engages students ages 18 to 25 years old to perform physical labor for environmental conservation and provides life skill training. Now, members of the California Conservation Corps receive on-the-job training from agencies like CAL FIRE, U.S. Forest Services, Caltrans, state parks, and the National Park Service. Additionally, supervisors at private companies oversee Corps members working on electrical, construction, and specialized CCC projects. Then we have the Regional Occupational Centers and Programs Code 55. In this case, the students successfully complete during the academic year a Regional Occupational Center program, or ROCP program, administered by an ROCP which provides career technical education and services to California high school students. So the major goal of career technical work-based learning is to develop and refine occupational competencies necessary to acquire paid employment or non-paid placement to adapt to employment environments and to advance in an occupation, right? So career technical based learning extends vocational learning opportunities to students through a combination of related classroom construction and work experience education, as well as supervised paid employment in the occupation for which their career technical course and school prepares them. California's 49 ROCPs provide high school and adult students with valuable career technical education, so students can enter the workforce with skills and competencies to be successful in life, so they can pursue advanced training in higher education institutions and or upgrade existing skills and knowledge they may have. And last but not least, we have our Transition Work-Based Experience Code 60 and Transition Classroom-Based Work Exploration 65. I think Brandy talked a little bit this earlier, but work experience education combines an on-the-job component with related classroom instruction designed to maximize the value of the on-job experience, right? Now, Transition Work-Based Learning Experience is a program that requires a student to have successfully completed a minimum of 100 hours of work-based learning since entering 9th grade of a program for the students with disabilities on an individualized education program, or IEP, that offers students work-based learning experiences that develop knowledge and skills in compliance with the Fair Labor Standards Act, or FLSA requirement. Okay. Now, transition work-based learning exploration requires the students to have successfully completed the equivalent of 4 semesters of college and career exploration and preparation courses designed to prepare a student with an IEP for employment and independent living since entering the 9th grade. So those are, at a high level, their definitions. Again, the code sets document has a little bit more detail on these code sets and their definitions, right? Which we will share with you in just a little bit. Okay, so those are all of your work-based learning types that we covered quickly.
Simon,
go ahead.
Can we just answer a few questions real quick?
Sure.
Okay, so we keep getting lots of questions about, so these work-based learning components, they're not only for CTE kids, correct? Yes, that's correct, right? If any student, including students with disabilities, are participating in any of these work-based learning programs, you should submit that they're participating in those programs. They do not have to be CTE students. We've got lots of questions about the ROP course. So an ROP course that has an internship component would have multiple work-based learning assignments? Question.
So my understanding is that if you're an ROP, and most ROPs do offer work-based learning experiences and so forth, through either the community classroom or the cooperative vocational education methodologies and so forth, that is actually considered the internship component. So you would label that as an internship. When you would label it for the ROP is when it would fall outside of that typical internship type of work-based learning experience. So I'll just check in with Jenny, and Brandy, you can correct me if I'm wrong there, but that's my understanding of that one.
This is Jenny. I would concur.
Okay, thank you, Jenny.
Then Jenny, we did have a question about seniors this year. So specifically for the internship, the student-led enterprise, and the virtual or simulated work-based learning. For seniors, what's the expectation in the file? Are you expecting current year numbers, or for seniors, could it be representative of the cumulative hours they've spent over the last 4 years? What are you looking for?
It could be the cumulative hours over the last 4 years. If they have that data, I would recommend that they report that data. I know that this is a really unusual year, so I would, and there may be some students that are actually participating in internships. I had a summer intern who did everything virtually, but it was an actual internship. He actually produced information and products for us, and I supervised him virtually. So if there are students who are participating in internships in like a government office per se, and they're actually helping out, you could report that as well. So keep in mind though, I will say that we are reporting the CCI this year for 2020. It's not going to be in the dashboard, but it's going to be in the additional reports. We probably will not be able to report data CCI for 2021 because students who are graduating in 2021 will not have Smarter Balance data because they would have taken that as juniors in 2020, which of course we did not have assessment data for 2020.
Let's see. The other thing I wanted you to cover is the fact that for work-based learning, or excuse me, for student-led enterprise, virtual or simulated work-based learning, and internships, everybody's asking, is there a minimum number of hours that students are going to have to complete in these programs?
Yes, I know they're all asking that question, and I know that my answer is going to be frustrating. We don't know the number of hours until we actually collect the data. And of course, the response that I will get from everyone is, then how do we know, if our students are going to be prepared? I'm sorry, but you will not know. I can't make an arbitrary decision on the number of hours, because I need to look at the statewide data and do a distribution to see, what districts are offering and base it on that. So if districts are, we have students who are completing, 200 hours of internships, and I see that happening in a lot of places, then that will be the standard. If I see that it's 150, that will be the standard. So I just can't arbitrarily make a decision about what the hours should be without having any data to base that on. The
Yeah,
board
and
would be unhappy with me.
Jenny, I think it's also important to understand, because I know this came up a lot for CTE folks too, is that this is the first year that we're collecting this data. So we're collecting the data to get the data to be able to review and take a look at the data. So we don't have a lot of answers right now as far as what that exact number needs to be, but that's the purpose of us collecting the data this first year. So I just want to set that reminder out there for folks that while we may not have a direct number that we can answer right now, we will later on, but first we have to get the data to see what's out there. So
right. And so Sabre has sort of a spin-off question. So we report any participation, and Sabre, what I'm talking about here specifically is virtual or simulated work-based learning, student-led enterprise, and internships. So yes, you report participation during the year. You don't have to wait until a student actually completes, and specifically for these programs, for the reason that Jenny just told you, which is they haven't identified the cut points for these yet, right? So they don't know how many hours will count as towards an indicator of or a preparedness, right? They haven't determined that, and so they won't know that until after they collect the data. So for this year, for those 3 work-based learning programs, what you want to do is submit data that is representative of the cumulative hours that the student has completed. Again, if they're seniors, you want and you have information to support the cumulative hours that the student spent in one of those programs, especially externally, then submit the cumulative hours for seniors or potentially even juniors, right? Okay, go ahead, Sly.
Yes, I just want to say though, if the juniors are completing it, please submit that data, because that's going to be very important for us to have that data as well, not just seniors.
Right.
Let's move on with the rest of the data population. So we covered basically the work-based learning code types field, as well as the actual code values that you can populate that field with. Now comes the rest of the fields in that file that we're going to define, and also look at some conditional edits that may apply to some of them, right? So the first one is the internship ID, field 2110. So this field is unique. It's a unique identifier for an internship work-based learning activity. The identifier must be unique for the internship within the school of attendance and the academic year. And it must be populated when the work-based learning type code is 10, internship, right? Otherwise, it should be left blank. So that last sentence, that is basically the conditional edit that will be applied to this field. So the next field is the work-based learning hours external, data element 21.11. And work-based learning hours are the count of hours that the student spent outside of the school in a work-based learning activity in the academic year being reported. Hours must be rounded to the nearest whole number, and also only report hours for work-based learning types 10, which is internship, 15, student-led enterprise, and 20, virtual simulated work-based learning. So that's another conditional edit for this field, right? You're only populating this field for WBLR types 10, 15, and 20. I would also point out a note in here that code 60 and 65 does not report hours, but locally the hours needs to be tracked to determine if students satisfied the requirements. So that's for internal use only. All right, so the next field is the state course code embedded work-based learning, or data element 21.12. And this one is required for work-based learning type codes 15, which is student-led enterprise, or 20, code 20, which is the virtual simulated work-based learning, right? The state course code embedded work-based learning field is the state course code that the student completed in which the work-based learning was embedded. Now, the course may or may not be a CTE course. An embedded work-based learning code may be reported for an internship, code 10, but it is not required, right? So it is required for 15 and 20, but for 10, it's optional. You can either report it or not. Okay, and now I'm going to introduce you to another document for those that are new, which is the CalPADS valid code combinations document, right? And this document is really great because in instances like this, it can help you identify which codes are valid between one field and the other. So if you looked at the course group master combos tab of the valid code combinations document, and under content area category assignment name, if you filtered by work experience education, you will see all the valid course group state course codes that you can possibly use. So this is great and can help you when you're mapping these state course codes for the state course code embedded work-based learning. All right, so the next field is internship employer performance evaluation code, field 21.13. So the internship employment performance evaluation field is a coded value representing the student's performance as evaluated by their employment supervisor, and should only be populated, here's the condition for it, when the work-based learning type code is 10 internship, okay? So you're only populating this field for an internship, right? There are 4 possible code values that you can populate this field with. There's a code 1, unsatisfactory or unacceptable. And I'm just going to read the definition for this one. The other ones you can read it offline yourself. Unsatisfactory or unacceptable is defined as when an employer evaluated the student's overall internship performance as unsatisfactory or unacceptable. The evaluation should include the following 4 categories, right? It's based on foundational skills, applied workplace skills, self-management and personal responsibility, and knowledge of the field and organizational context. The student receives a rating of less than satisfactory in 2 or more of these categories, right? That's when you would populate this field with unsatisfactory or unacceptable. And then there's less than satisfactory, and this is where I guess I'll just read through this definition for you as well. Less than satisfactory is employer evaluated students' overall internship performance as less than satisfactory, and the evaluation should include these 4 categories. Again, foundational skills, applied workplace skills, self-management and personal responsibility, as well as knowledge of the field and organizational context. And the student receives a rating of less than satisfactory in 1 of these categories, right? And then satisfactory is when the employer evaluates the student's overall internship performance as less than exceptional but satisfactory based on those 4 categories. So minimally, the student must earn a rating of satisfactory in all 4 categories, right? And then exceptional is at a minimum, the student would earn a rating of exceptional in 3 of those 4 categories that we talked about, and no rating less than satisfactory. So that's how internship employer performance evaluation code is defined and how it's populated with one of those 4 code values. Okay, and again, this is only a required field if the work-based learning code type is internship. So there's that cross-field edit or conditional edit, right? All right, so then we get to the last two data elements, and these are your internship indicators. The internship indicators should only populate it again when the work-based learning type code is 10 internship, right? So as you can see, majority of these fields that you submit in this file are related to internships, right? So the internship LEA sponsored indicator describes whether the school, district, or county played a direct role in securing the internship for the student. This is only reported for work-based learning type code 10 internship again, and you would have a Y flag, which would indicate that the school, district, or county played a direct role in securing the internship. If you put an N flag in there, that would indicate it did not, and the students obtained their own summer jobs and school, district, or county has not played a direct role with them getting that job. Okay.
So Sly, we did have a question about whether or not, with respect to whether or not the internship was had a certificated supervisor, whether that person had to have a CTE credential. Based on this definition, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jenny and Michelle, they just have to be a certificated staff member. Right. They have to have some type of credential.
So the internship certificated supervisor indicator, that one provides an indication of whether the internship was part of a program supervised by a certificate staff member of the school, district, or county. A Y indicator would indicate that the internship was part of the program supervised by a certificated staff member of the school, district, or county, and an N would indicate that it was not. Supervised can be described as a certificated staff member closely monitoring the student throughout the internship. Example of that would be regularly visit the work site, elicit feedback from employer on interns' performance, etc.